Hi viewers, over the last 12 months I have become a pretty big fan of the brand Doxa. I really do like their watches, I rate them very highly. I find the look extremely appealing to me, probably because I am a big fan of vintage dive watches, and that's primarily what they're all about really. I mean, they do other style of watches as well, but what they're known for really is vintage style dive watches. So I currently have 3 different watches from their dive collection, and I just want to do this quick video here really to show you the difference between the dive watches they have. They're all different price points. So the lowest cost one is the sub 200, and then we have the sub 600, and then the sub 300T. Now the sub 200 comes in at just under £1,000, which is probably around about $1,200, $1,300. The sub 600 retails on the metal bracelet at around about £1,300, so that's around about $1,600. And then the sub 300T retails for around about £1,800. Now each one of these watches have been featured on my channel. I have done individual reviews for each one, so if you want to see more detail on each watch, check out those videos. Hopefully you won't be disappointed. But this one really is a comparison video. I just want to show you, if someone is out there thinking, oh, which one should I choose, I'm not sure, then maybe this will help you. It's always helpful to see them side by side. Okay, so I'll just run through the specifications first for each watch. Let's start with the sub 200. The case size on this is 42mm in diameter, and it's powered by the ETA 2824. Bezel has a sapphire insert. It's a flat bezel, and then you've got the lovely box dome sapphire glass. But I really do love the side profile of this. The case is stunning. Really interesting shape, lovely combination of brushed and polished. I think they've done it so well. A wonderful design. Okay, now we'll go over the specs of the 600T. So the case size on this one is a very reasonable 40mm. The lug to lug is 47.6. It's 14.15 thick. It's quite a thick watch, and the lug width is 20mm. Now this is powered by the Solita SW200-1. Nothing special about the movement, but it's very reliable and very accurate. Now the 600 is quite obviously the most different looking watch out of the 3. The other 2 do have the beads of rice bracelet. This one has a very special shimmery stainless steel flat bracelet, which is stunning. I really love the way it moves. It's such a fluid draping style bracelet, and that brush steel really shimmers in the light. It's gorgeous. It's a much more angular watch than the other 2. You see the sharp angles here. Quite boxy, but I think they've pulled it off. I really do like the look of that. And then we have the 300T. I'll just go over the specs on that one. The case size on this is 42.5mm diameter. The thickness is 14mm. Lug width is 20mm, and the lug to lug is just 44.5. It's got quite short lug to lug measurement, which is good because it really wears well on the wrist. And this is really the most iconic one in their range. This is a reissue of the watch they launched in the 1960s, and it is pretty much identical to the original one, and it has such a retro look to it. You've got this cushion case, brush polishing all on the flat part. And then the side is highly polished. Very eye-catching orange dial. High contrast with the black indices and markers and hands. And you have the bezel here with the minute markings on the inner ring, and then you have this no decompression scale on the outer side. So this really is a proper professional dive watch. It has a water resistance of 1200 meters. So they're all very different in their own way. I mean, personally, if you're looking for a more dress style dive watch, something a little bit less tooly, then I think the 200 would be the best fit for you. It is a great combination of sports and dressy. Got the highly polished bracelet and a more traditional case shape. Now it is a 42mm case, but it does feel and look quite a bit smaller, more like 40mm. So it's a very compact watch and more subtle than the other two. So I think if you want something a bit more formal and dressy, then this would be the one to go for. If you're after something modern and chunky, then it's definitely got to be the 600T. This really does stand out. It is, if you like bulky watches, you'll love this. The case is a nice size, but it is tall. But I like that, I do. I think it's, because the lug to lug isn't so much, it doesn't look overbearing on the wrist, so the fact that it's quite thick isn't a problem in my opinion. And it really does have a wow factor. Very tooly with the steel insert of the bezel and the angles, that angular case on the profile does make it feel quite masculine, if you like. And if you're not a fan of beads of rice bracelets, then again this would be the choice for you. But then of course, if you want something more traditional in terms of vintage divers, authentic, professional dive watches, then you cannot beat this one. The Sub 300T is one of the most infamous dive watches around. Of course it has links with Jacques Cousteau and features in a lot of dive publications and magazines and all kinds of things. It really is a special dive watch. Again, it has a very tool-like feel to it. It's not really a dress watch at all. It is a practical watch, but one that has such high build quality. The fit and finish, as with all the Doxa watches here, is fantastic, and the build quality is really special. And this is the one with the most interesting history and heritage. If that's something that's important to you, then I would go for this, the 300T. Okay, I'll quickly put these on the wrist now, show you how they look. There's the 300, very comfortable, love that bracelet. This one has the best clasp out of all of them. I'll show you why in a minute. But it's, yeah, it's a very original, eye-catching looking watch. And here's the Sub 200. In terms of looks, possibly my favourite of the three. I absolutely love the way this watch looks. That vintage skin diver type style, the flat bezel, that box dome sapphire, it's wonderful. And on this one the indices are raised on the dial, edged in chrome, and really look great against that beautiful Caribbean blue dial. Now the original one I reviewed, I did review an orange dial version of this watch a few months back, and you can check that out if you want to see more details on this. I love the orange dial, but What I couldn't get round was the bezel insert, the black with the orange markings. It just, for me, I just didn't like the look of it in the end, and I did sell that watch, but it's the only time I've ever really regretted selling a watch and ended up buying the same one, albeit a different colour. I've never bought the same model twice of any watch. This is the first time I've done that, and I'm really glad to have the sub 200 back in my collection. I did miss it when I sold it. I really did miss that profile, that gorgeous domed sapphire glass, and the whole look of the watch. Very comfortable. The bracelet is superb. Just a great all-round watch. And finally the 600T. This is probably the most controversial of all the Doxa dive watches that I've seen. It's one of those Marmite watches, you either love it or hate it. I obviously love it, but there's quite a few people that aren't happy with that thick case, and okay, maybe doesn't sit so well on the wrist as the other two. There is that slight gap, but honestly it really doesn't bother me. The way they've polished it and the fit and finish of these watches is second to none, and that angular case is so interesting and really appealing to look at. No, I love this, I really do. I just want to run through the bracelets on the 300 and the 200, because yeah, they're both beads of rice bracelets, but they're not the same. The 300T, the bracelet on that, well, first of all, as you can see, it does taper a bit more than the 200, which I don't think tapers at all really. It's also thicker, and in most people's eyes that's a better quality bracelet. However, for me, I do prefer the bracelet on the 200, the cheaper watch, which sounds maybe a little bit odd, but I like the fact that it's thinner. It feels more comfortable on the wrist, it's lighter. It has, what I love in a bracelet is that drape factor. Because it's thinner and it articulates so well, it really is a silky smooth movement, whereas this is a little bit more stiff and heavy. Still a fantastic bracelet, don't get me wrong, but for me personally, there's something about this one that just sings. It's just wonderful, and it works. It really does look lovely, feels lovely, very comfortable, and it feels gorgeous. But that's my opinion, and just thought I'd share that with you. The case backs on all the watches fairly similar. I would say the 600T has the nicest finish on the case back. It's a much deeper embossing than the other ones. And it looks fantastic, really appealing, very tactile, gorgeous. Here you can see the 200T has a much more shallow embossing. They all feature the fish, the yenny fish. And here's the 300. Again, quite a shallow engraving, etching if you like. And that actually doesn't feature the fish, it's a sailing boat. Just a quick mention on something else that's a little bit different is the buckles, or the clasps on the bracelets. The 600T has a similar stamped clasp as you see with the 200. It's decent, very good build quality, nice fur mechanism, but it is stamped, and so is the extension, which is not great. So that's the same as with the 200 as well. See, stamped clasp, stamped extension. Which, you know, is a little bit poor in this price bracket. But thankfully the most expensive one, the 300, doesn't have that type of clasp. It's milled and has a more impressive extension glide. Just press the buttons there and it comes out. So this does have the superior clasp and the superior bracelet. Even though I prefer the 200 bracelet, it is the superior one. But you should expect that for this kind of price. It's not a cheap watch by any means. So I'll just show you the lume for each watch now. Okay, right, let's quickly have a look at the bezel action on each of these beauties. Let's start off with the 300T. Nice sound, no play at all, very solid. Perfectly lines up, excellent. Now the 600T. Quite similar, again no play at all. Very nice firm clicks, lines up perfectly. Now the 200. Yeah, this is the most different out of the three. A tiny little bit of play, not a lot, but a little bit. And the clicks are louder and a little bit more agricultural. That's still very good. Just a little bit looser than the other two. Lines up perfectly though. All good. In terms of accuracy, they all keep good time as you'd expect. Very reliable. So there we have it. A quick side-by-side look at the three dive watches from Doxa. That's the sub 200, the sub 600T and the sub 300T. All great watches in their own way. But personally, my favourite is, I can't say. I don't have a favourite. I don't know. I couldn't tell you honestly. I like them all equally the same for different reasons. But maybe the best all-round performer would be the cheapest one, the 200. That's the best everyday watch out of these. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.